Welcome to Quick Shots, a short format traditional archery podcast, where we introduce you to some of the world's most influential traditional archers, and occasionally, some random dudes. Help keep this content ad-free by supporting us on patreon.com/archerygeek. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, archerypass.com, for all your traditional archery needs. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Quick Shots. I'm your host, Mick Chambers. We're here with Steph Correa. But
Yep.
but you kind of go by Steph Core, I guess, because
Yes.
people mess it up so much online, or
A little bit of that and a little bit of before I made the team, I was trying to be incognito, so it made it harder for people to find me.
that's funny. That's funny. And you are a member of the U.S. archery team that recently went over to the World Championships in Italy, and you shot in the trad class, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
I have a lot of trad listeners, and so they probably want to know, what is a trad class? First of all, we want to get to know you, of course, and we want to get to know, how you got into archery and, everything about you. I want to hear everything about you. So why don't you, is that okay? Can I just give you the form, give you the mic and go ahead and take over? Just tell us how you got into trad archery and why you love it.
Sure. Originally, I got into archery kind of by accident. I was dealing with an injury from another sport, from soccer, and I kind of wanted something to do. It's a new adventure. I've always been, I guess, sports inclined, I guess you could say. High school was cross country, wrestling, and track and field and soccer as well. So yeah, as an adult, I kept in as many sports as I could, but dealing with an injury from soccer, I kind of was like, well, I need something new to do. And archery just seemed like something really cool that I always wanted to try. So I went ahead and gave it a whirl. And it's been almost 10 years now since I started. And once I picked it up, the bow felt right. And I ran with it. I started competing 3 months after picking up a bow, and kind of, I've taken breaks here and there, when life kind of didn't allow it, but I've been pretty much competing on and off for like the last 10 years between one sport or another. Archery always, is one of those things when the fun competitions come back around, like the Gene Foster or the Chamberlain in our area. I always get back into it and then go heavy and then jump back into my other sports and then come back. And so right now it's been a back and forth between archery and Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Shit, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. Hey, your camera's jittering just a little bit. Do you got something you can put it on maybe and just kind of hold it up?
Yeah, hold on.
But we're going to dig all into that. So a lot of us, so first of all, okay, now that whole thing is starting to make sense. Like, you were already an athlete. You were already someone who was very athletically inclined, had a will to win, had the desire, had the passion. And then so you pick up a bow and you're just like, oh yeah, there's something else I can do. And then you're good at it. You're great at
Yeah.
it. That's amazing. But why traditional archery?
Um, I guess you could say I've always wanted to pick up what I felt was the hardest thing and do it.
Okay.
Um, and I think maybe because of the influence that I had from the people around me when I first got introduced into archery, it seemed like the compounders had it easier.
Mm,
And so I think that's why like the traditional seem like, well, if you can shoot a stick and string, then you can pretty much do anything. Because there's you don't have as many sites and guides, and compounders have their own, stuff that they got to deal with and stuff that makes it very difficult for them. But when I initially started, I thought that the traditional would be the hardest.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you were right. You're right. And it is hard. I mean, obviously, I think probably one step harder would you agree would be longbow and wood arrows?
Absolutely, which is actually kind of what I'm considering doing next.
Oh,
But
really?
I haven't made that like final decision to actually cross over to that dark side.
Well, you have some great team members in Makoa. Chris is just a phenomenal archer, and I think she's pretty willing to help and share with anyone.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah,
is a
I had the honor of sharing an Airbnb with her in a group, and she was definitely my buddy the whole 2 weeks there. So she's amazing.
good, and she has some great. Just a shout out to the push. The push had her on. Um, Breaking Trad had her on. I'm trying not to get all these people that are already been on some other show, but we want to give you guys a voice. We want to give the U.S. archery team a voice because there is so many things that you guys have done, and people just don't even realize. Like pay for your own way to get over to Italy and pay for those shirts that you're wearing. Or yeah, I think actually did Lancaster dropping some money for you guys. So
Yes. Yeah, Lancaster was one of the people who was able to help us out, which was an immense, like we appreciate it. Like I can't even say enough of how much that helped us. But everything else was pretty much self-funded. There were people along the way who did help us,
mhm.
with equipment and whatnot. The tough
Safari,
uh,
Safari Tough.
Safari Tough. Yeah. They
Mm,
sent us these beautiful bow cases,
yeah,
which we all got to, use in Italy, and now we're all using during our competitions in our own states and stuff. But it was a pretty tough go for everybody, because most of us have full-time jobs and are still trying to, train for all of these big competitions and stuff. So it was I think it was a rough go for a lot of us, but what a learning experience, and what a memorable one.
that's good. I mean, honestly, we want to send out, our athletes there, and you guys, there's a stress level anyway, right? There's a massive stress level. And then you put on that Team USA shirt, and then the stress level gets increased, and you got the world's eyes on you, and you might not single string trad archery might not be as big as maybe compound or something like that. But when you take a look at the numbers and people watching, we are diehards. We are the trad guys are diehards. We will watch every single person shoot. And, we love each other. I'm not saying we don't love each other, but we're like, nah, is that guy or gal, is her, is she, maybe she could pull through a little bit more back tension. There's always those critiques that are kind of in the back of your head, at least for me anyway. You guys at your level, I'm sure you can put all that stuff out of your head and mind, and you feel comfortable, and you get up to the line, and I'm sure there's no nerves whatsoever, and you just stand up there and you're like, this is easy, this is everyday stuff. Pull back the string and let it go. I think that was your words.
The easiest part of archery is pulling back the string and letting it go. I think archery. I think most of us would agree that archery is 90% mental.
Yeah,
But yeah, no. Nerves are there no matter what level you're at. So that's there no matter what. But I think the more you practice at it, I think maybe the easier it becomes, at those higher levels at competitions. But you're always gonna have the nerves. You're always gonna have the jitters and all that. Like we're human,
mhm,
Um, for as much as people want to put us on a pedestal, like we still make mistakes. We drop arrows. We, misjudge a yardage, or our instincts are off on how far we think it could be. And so it's one of those things that we're still human, and it's still there. It's just maybe we hide it. I don't know.
you're
But it's
better at it.
definitely still there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was being facetious, obviously. You hide it well, you deal with it better. I think that's the better way to say it. You just deal with it better than the average person. That's what puts you at the top of your game. Hey, so let's talk a little bit. So you're about where you're at. You're in California. You're in
Correct.
Santa Barbara County, up there with Oprah Winfrey or whomever. Isn't she in Santa Barbara, up in that area?
We have a couple out here that are in the county. I'm not sure who all, but yeah.
Yeah, and I was one of my favorite. So I know Santa Barbara, like the city. That was one of my favorite places when I lived in California. I lived in Calabasas, California, which is down the road quite a ways. But yeah, I loved being in California. I did not know that there was a lot of archery out there though. When I was there, there was Simi Valley had an archery club, and I was a member of that club. But I didn't realize there was anything else really.
Yeah, there we have, so my home club now is the San Ynez Valley Bow and Pistol Club.
Okay.
But we do have Simi Valley is the closest, the Conejo Valley Archers.
Yeah.
They're the next closest to us. And then I spend a lot of time at Pasadena Roving Archers.
Oh,
Um, yeah, Lodi is out that way as well. We're kind of in the middle, so you got to travel a good distance one way or another to find shoots. But there are plenty in California, that's for sure. I just got back from one this weekend from Rancho Neblina. We did their traditional shoot this weekend, and it was a ton of fun to be out on a cattle ranch shooting up and down hills and stuff. So.
yeah, that's cool. I didn't know they had a trad shoot out there. That is interesting. Did is there a lot? Do they set the courses up for trad every time you go out for a 3D event?
Um, for most of for most of the traditional shoots, yeah, each club tends to do at least one traditional shoot a year. So for like Rancho Neblina this weekend, I don't think we shot anything over 40 yards. Um, so that's pretty, standard for traditional here.
Yeah,
The Chamberlain, which is a big shoot in March, actually the end of March or first week of April. I think they're settling on the first week of April from here forward. But those you won't see any shots past 45 yards. And there's a ton of novelty stuff. So you'll shoot apples out of a tree. You've got the sealed turkeys. You've got speed rounds where you got to hit a button and get as many arrows off as you can.
yeah.
So that's, yeah, they set those up more for the trad. So it'll most likely be 45 and under for most traditional stuff in my area.
I remember when that first of all, if someone if someone set a trad course up here in Midwest to the east, I think, Midwest and East, and they had like say a trad shoot. If they shot anything over 30 yards, those people would not be happy. No, none of the trout archers would be happy. They would be like, "This is bullshit. This course
The
is
Raptors
bullshit."
take on the Jazz on
Shh, Siri. Um, that they would they'd be like, "This is bullshit. We don't. Yeah, this you got to go change this target or whatever, or we're not counting this target." Yeah, it's pretty strict out here to keep it, 30. And then it's longbow too. It's inside that. And so I know world longbow they do 30, but it's tough with wood arrows. Anyway, have you let's talk about your gear and equipment if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right,
Uh,
tell us what kind of bow you're shooting.
I had to switch bows for making the team. So I went from shooting a 50-pound white buffalo. Um, yeah. I had that. Yeah, that was my pride and joy for 9 years. So I went from shooting that to borrowing a Bob Lee,
Yeah.
and it's a 43-pound Bob Lee. And then I ended up having to purchase one of my own because the wood and materials it was made from, which I qualified with, were no longer allowed at Worlds. So we contacted Bob Lee bows, and they were able to really quickly make me something that worked for the legalities of what the materials it could be made out of. And so I'm pulling the same poundage. They did a good job of mimicking the exact same one I was shooting. So it is a 43-pound Bobley recurve.
Yeah.
And then my arrows are supplied by Victory Archery. I
Okay.
shoot 400. They are three. Oh goodness, I have them because I haven't learned what they are exactly yet. They're newer to me.
Yeah.
They're 3D HV 400 victory arrows. So,
Okay, so you're shooting a 400 spine.
mhm.
That's pretty awesome. And those are good arrows. That's why I shoot too. I think a lot of us shoot when we're shooting 3D, we shoot 3D HVs. Um, do you use feathers on those? Are there feathers?
uh, yeah, yeah, I use feathers. They're the shield cut feathers.
Okay, cool.
And I think they're not super short. I could actually, okay, so truth is, I don't know a whole lot about archery other than pulling back the bow and just shooting
Hey,
it.
you're fine. You're fine. That's all you need to do. And then like honestly, that's all good. It's just interesting. It's interesting that they said to you, hey, you can't use, phenolic. I think Bob Lee used a lot of phenolic, whatever that is, resin in their handles because it makes it heavier, right? And then they just
Micarta was the issue for
Macarta,
me.
yeah, micarta. So that micarta, so you just had you have to have a pure wood bow to compete on the world stage.
You need to have, I believe it is, the technicality of it needs to be a solid wood center. Like you can
Right.
build around it, but the amount of micarta in the original bow that I had borrowed to go shoot
Mhm.
um it was too much. So they built something else that worked really well for me.
That's
So
awesome. That was
yeah,
nice that they turned that around. And congratulations to Bob Lee on having, representation on the US team. That's pretty good.
yeah.
Did you yeah, what was I gonna ask you about? Oh, your Hoyt Buffalo at 50 pounds. So is it 50 pounds at 28 and then you just kind of draw, or like, are you holding 50 pounds, do you know? Or
My draw is about 27, so it's just under 50.
wow, so it's probably like
Yeah.
48 or something like that. Oh my
Hmm.
goodness.
Well, yeah, out here, most of them, there's more mixed shoots than there's traditional shoots out here. So the standard for traditionals at a mixed shoot is like 50 yards and less. So when I first started, I picked up a 30-pound bow, and the compounders laughed at me and they're like, "Oh, look at her and her toy bow." And I was like,
Oh,
hmm.
that's not
Yeah,
nice.
so then I went out and got a 50-pound buffalo, and I was like, now I can keep up with you guys and make the longer shots, no problem.
Steph, you are a badass. There isn't one bow behind me that is 50 pounds. Like I cannot, I'm like, oh man. I couldn't pull that back. 48. That's too much. I think my max, I'm like maybe 48, 40, between 46 and 48. I think I have a longbow back there. It's around 48. But yeah, I went through that all day and I couldn't qualify for a team at that poundage. I'd be like blown away. I could maybe shoot like 40 arrows and that'd be like, I need a beer and a break. So so that's awesome. And so that leads me into my next question about, some BJJ. Let's chat rolling for a bit. So how often do you train?
When I'm not getting ready for larger archery competitions, I try to get in like the 5 to 7 days a week.
Jeez, and who's your coach?
Right now, I'm part of Santa Maria Paragon, which is owned by Lance. So they've got a really good competitive team. I initially started with a different school. When I got into it at first, it was just an easy transition from wrestling. So it was just kind of a thing to do for fun.
Right.
And then I got conned into doing a competition, and then I was like, okay, I could do this. So then I did, a handful of competitions and decided I wanted to see about how far I could take it. So I switched schools in preparing for, worlds and Pan Ams and different competitions and stuff. So now I'm with the Santa Maria Paragon.
So you're a competitive grappler then.
Yes.
Jeez. Okay. And I don't know how you stay healthy. Like 5 days a week. How do you stay healthy rolling that much?
Well, a lot of it's diet and rest. I mean, if you don't sleep and you don't eat right, yeah, it's asking for, injuries, and it's asking to get sick. And unfortunately, it took me the first couple of years to learn that. Um, So once you figure out, it's like, I'm sick all the time. It's like, oh, it's because I'm not sleeping and because I'm not eating the foods I need. And so yeah, that is a major factor there.
How's your hands and fingers?
They're great. They're still good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, judo was the one that killed my hands. Jiu-jitsu not so much. But you'd be
Yeah.
surprised how archery and jiu-jitsu carries over. Because of pulling back a bow and holding.
Yeah.
If I can get a hold of a lapel, I'm not letting go. And
No.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, oh, okay, so you're not doing no gi, you're doing gi.
both. I've competed in both, but most of my competitions has been under gi.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I prefer that. Honestly, I prefer watching that too. I prefer, because it's kind of more of that traditional. It's kind of like taking newaza in judo and then going, okay, well, we're going to apply it to the ground and then do that Brazilian jiu-jitsu or ground jiu-jitsu or whatever they call it. So what's the federation out there? What do you compete under? What's the
There's a couple of different ones. But the last one that I competed under was the SJJIF.
Okay, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure.
Yeah.
But if someone's listening, they might want to know, right? And then where they can come out and watch you beat people up. Do you have something coming up?
I do not. Jiu-jitsu took a back door. I took a back seat, I guess, to archery for now. It's a back and forth. When I get heavy into jujitsu, archery takes a back seat. And then I kind of flip flop, I guess, as the seasons in archery, come to a close, and I'll switch back to jujitsu. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'll do the All Americas next year. That'll be probably in January. And that'll give me enough time to get ready for it.
Yeah, it might have taken a back seat for a little bit, but you still tie us all up like a pretzel, right? Like I don't think I don't. Do you look at your competition? You're up there, and you're in Italy, and you're like, yeah, you might beat me this time, but I'd choke you out someday. You want to roll?
I have had that cross my mind.
You think you're good up there, Chinchilla. You think you're really good. Yeah, I choke you out in like 15 seconds. We go to the ground. So does your organization, do you guys start on the ground or do you start standing?
Standing.
Okay. So you have a lot of your wrestling to fall back on, right? To get people to the ground. Start
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
the wrestling's a big help. And then I'm not heavy into judo like I am the other sports, but it is something that I do go back to because it does help get your opponent to the ground
Hmm.
in a controlled manner. So
Hmm.
between the wrestling and a little bit of judo, it's a help.
Would you consider doing MMA?
I would love the opportunity to have at least like one MMA fight. But at my age, I don't know how realistic that is.
Ah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're competitive, you're competitive, right? You're competitive in your category, so that's awesome. Hey, okay, enough about BJJ. Let's talk a little bit more about archery. Give us a piece of advice that might help me or someone listening to become a better archer. Like, do you have like a secret sauce that you can just say, "Hey, add this," and then you're going to become a better archer?
um, your mindset,
Mhm.
your mindset. I've come across so many amazing archers that not only do they not realize that they're good archers, but their mindset is like, oh, I could never do that. I could never do that. Or I could never hit that. Or I'm not going to hit that. And I'm like, well, with that, you're never going to get there. If you just change that little bit, of like, I can't do it to I'm going to hit it. I'm going to get there or I'm working towards it. I think that makes a huge difference. And then it's with like targets and with like the entirety of a competition. So you walk up to a target and it's in a scary spot between two trees. It's like all you see is the tree. Like, most people are like, oh, I got to shoot to the right of the tree or the left of the tree. And it's like, no, 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 all you see is the target. You don't see anything else. You put blinders on and all you see is that target. You like drill a hole into where you want your arrow to go, because if you look anywhere else, that's where your arrow's going to go.
Yeah.
So that was like this weekend I was shooting with a group of amazing archers, and every time they'd come up, and there's like uh target that's sitting right at the edge of like a downhill berm, and they're
Mhm.
like, oh, it's a scary shot. It's like, no, it's not. All you see is the target. You don't see nothing else. And it was just like the groups were getting better and getting better. And it was just like, see, guys, all you got to do is all you see is the animal. All you focus on is what's in front of you and what you want to hit, not at all the distractions.
Wow, that's great advice. That is fantastic advice. It begs a question though. Are you a hard aimer or are you instinctive?
Gap stinctive.
Yeah, gap instinctive. Okay. Well, explain to we've mentioned it a bunch on the show, but go ahead and explain what gap instinctive is again.
For me, gap stinctive is I have a with the new bow, I had to learn whole new gaps. But since I didn't have a ton of time to learn those gaps between switching bows, I kind of had to just like pull back, and when it felt right, like all right, let it go. Um, for a lot of the shots that were closer, because I really just didn't know where the gaps were. But
Sure.
for the further shots, I knew that if I was about 4 to 6 inches below the target, I was going to be right where I needed to be. So in half the shots, they were more instinctive, as far as like I had a feel for where it needed to like feel right, but not actually putting the arrow where I wanted it.
Okay.
And then the rest were, putting the arrow, 4 to 6 inches below the target of where I wanted it, and then letting it go.
Yeah, that must have been tough to change bows and go into the tournament. It's like, oh, what a shot to you, but what a professional you are to be able to overcome that and perform well while you're away. Really, amazing, amazing stuff. Like, I think most of us, I think the majority of us would just fallen apart. Like, oh no, we got a new bow. But I keep hearing over and over again, competitors at your level, having problems on the line and they're plunger breaking and for the barebow guys and then just, oh yeah, well, okay, well, I just threw another plunger in there and went on with your day, right? I mean, or I had to change up my bow and I think a lot of us would be like, that's stressful. Like that adds to the stress. Gives us a little out if we wanted to. If we're being fair, it gives us that out. We can say, "Nah, I had to change my stuff," and that's probably why I didn't perform as well. So your mind goes way into like all these dark corners where you're making excuses already. So, congratulations on doing so well and representing Team USA. I really do. I loved watching it. Honestly, I loved watching it. I think me and Matt Zernzak and I were kind of going back and forth, like refreshing, just to see the scores on the days you guys shot. Yeah, couldn't be more proud of you guys. I'm Canadian, so I'm proud of the Canadians too. Just FYI, just a disclaimer there. But I am very happy to see that you guys all did good. And I think you guys got along pretty well, right? The Canadian US team.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I had one of the team members switch me hats so that I was able to get, because it was like they have such badass hats. I gotta have one.
That's really
So
cool.
yeah, they had some pretty cool stuff.
That's all right. Hey, Steph, thank you again for being on the show. Where can people follow you and kind of track your BJJ career as you go into your MMA professional? And we will all come and see that MMA fight. I mean, I want to, if you're going to do it in California, I might fly out there and go, "Hey, okay, yeah, this is a pretty good idea. Let's go see you get beat someone up." But hopefully you don't hurt your hands. Um, so tell us where we can follow you.
You can find me, sorry, on Facebook at Steph Core, or Instagram at Little Loca and I.
Little Loca and I. That's
Yeah,
really
that's
cool.
my fur baby, and so she's got, yeah,
What is
it's
she? What
a
kind of
whole
dog?
lot.
What kind of?
She's a bulldog terrier mix.
Oh, awesome. I wouldn't expect anything else from you like a bulldog. I'm thinking like you, that's a good persona right there.
Yeah.
You're tough as nails. Tough as nails. Thanks again for joining, everyone. Thanks for listening to the end here. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, archerypass.com. They got great trad stuff, and they are located in California as well. And they're like the number one store on eBay. So they're doing something right. Anyway, thanks again, everyone, for joining. Thanks again, Steph, for being here. I appreciate you making time today. And don't forget to hunt the good stuff. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye now.